Thank you very much for joining us back here in Sweden for the F1 Sim Racing World Championship 2025. It's great to have you with us. We have completed round 2 earlier on this afternoon of this incredible tournament. Now we move to round 3 of 4 in event 1. We are turning our attentions to the Bahrain Grand Prix, the Sakir circuit. Very much looking forward to this one. Joining me on the desk, I have the voice of F1, Alex Jakes, doing a phenomenal job so far, and also the host of P1 with Matt and Tommy. It's the one and only Matt Gallagher. Gentlemen, welcome back. 2 races in a day, 2 qualies. It's quite a lot. It's very exciting, isn't it?
It is really exciting. We've seen so much action across the first 2 races. It's been barely believable, but it's been a lot of fun. And the tests just keep on coming for the drivers now because they've got to reset, got to get back into 1 lap pace and do it all over again.
Matt, talk to me about some of those highlights from quali earlier on in China.
Well, it was a brilliant race again, wasn't it? Of course, Jarno Opmeer coming to the front, and great for him to get his first win with Red Bull for sure. But still, some great stories. Of course, Danny Beresnay, another podium, and coming back to the form that we saw many years ago, and it's great to see him there. And then there's some struggles out there as well. Ferrari, hardly off the mark, really. Yeah. And then also Freddie Rasmussen, Jarno Opmeer's teammate, also struggling this season so far. So I don't expect it to last for those particular examples of Ferrari and Freddie Rasmussen, but they're going to have to get off the mark soon. Yeah,
we will show you the driver standards in just a second. But, I mean, when you look at Lucas Blakely and Barry Bremond for not having a point so far, who would have thought that coming into a brand new season?
No, not at all. And I think that just speaks to the ultra-competitive year that we're going to have, that we are having, and the fact that Q1s used to be formalities. It's not the case anymore. We're getting big names falling at the first hurdle of every session that we've run so far in sim racing qualifying this year.
Who has stood out for you after 2 races, Matt? I know it's too early. I'm not asking you who you think is a front runner, but who has stood out for you?
You are asking.
No, I'm asking you who's impressed you so far. Because for me personally,
putting you under the spotlight.
He is, isn't he? He's asking.
That's not what I did.
He's going to ask you for
me
the champion's name.
For me personally, Danny Beresnay, not necessarily shocked me, but the return to the 2018, 2019, even 2020 form has shocked many, surprised many, but excited many because it really is anyone's title at the moment.
For sure, and Mercedes have shown that with the fact that it's not just about driver talent, it's about executing your strategy well, which I think they've done perfectly with Beresnay both times. Of course, he hasn't won a race yet, but he's been on the podium both times. And I know you don't want to ask, but you do want to ask who I have been impressed by. Ismail Fassi, for sure. It has to be. Getting the victory, but also following that up with a great P4 as well. After a little bit of a difficult qualifying in China, where, of course, he got that 3-place penalty, but still had a very good race, very solid race. And to score, it's all well and good getting your first victory, but to then follow it up with a strong result. He's tied on points with Jarno Opmeer at the moment. He's in a great position moving forward now.
Yeah, I know this is a difficult question to ask, but it's just come to mind. On pole position, going into that race in China, was Ulash of the Racing Bulls. Where did it sort of fall apart for him as a driver? Because that's what we're seeing. Rookies come in. I know he's not a rookie, but his first race this season. Yeah. All to do and just sort of fell away. And that's happened to a couple of drivers so far.
Well, we had an unusual qualifying session for good reason. Took his opportunity really well in Q3. But then if you're in that position around a circuit like Shanghai, you're betwixt and between. If you go early, you've got experienced runners coming past. You've only got to have one moment where you get shuffled off the racing line. A 1-place loss becomes a 2-place loss, and blink and you miss it. The quality in this field, you will be out of the points. Sometimes, brutal on him, but he did brilliantly to take pole position. Let's take the positives. But sometimes that shows us that just the level that the others are operating at. And he would have learned a lot. Great to get your first pole under your belt. He knows he can do that for the future. And any time it doesn't go to plan, there are lessons to be learned. He'll carry them into the next session.
Yeah, many drivers could say that. Maybe even Otis Lawrence, we'll get to in a moment. Let's look at the driver standings then. So far, after 2 races in this 2025 championship. And there you have it. Joint top there, Jarno Opmeer and Ismail Fassi. But Jarno just taking it at the moment and just proving why he is tipped, obviously, with the move to Red Bull for being one of those drivers who could be winning another title. Danny Berezny down in third. So yeah, points being picked up. Really good to see with Alpine. They hadn't picked up any points going into the Chinese Grand Prix. And then Joni Tormala and Josh Ito. What a race from Josh coming from P20 to pick up some points. Top stuff from him. So it's looking good. Constructors standings. Well, that's where the big money is in the prize pool. And Mercedes surprising a few people when you see how much we talked about Oracle Red Bull Racing coming into this, thinking they were going to be the top dogs, but it's only 2 races in, so still plenty of time. The only team not to pick up a point is Haas, but they did switch things up and they went with a really aggressive strategy, both starting on the soft. Do you expect that to continue if they can get maybe back into Q3 in quali around Bahrain?
Not sure. It's going to, of course, strategy is going to be different each track that we go to. I think that Haas made a mistake with what they did with that strategy. They were still in the mix, though. So Otis Lawrence, for example, went onto the medium tyres at exactly the same time that the Haas drivers came from the softs to the mediums as well. And Otis Lawrence managed P6. The 2 drivers, sadly, fell out of the points and wasn't able to take advantage of that track position at the beginning of the race. But they're the only team to have done that. So for me, it strikes a probably don't do it again.
Yeah, don't do it again. But I'm impressed with how they've come in as 2 rookies and looking there or thereabouts. It's just maybe that strategy holding them up a little bit so far. In terms of some of those drivers to look out for and what we can expect from Bahrain, is it going to be the same as Australia? Is it going to be the same? How does it differ from China, say, Alex?
So, different types of circuits. You come to Bahrain, which has been basically ever present on the calendar for a really long time, due to the fact that it's been the traditional season opener for the Grand Prix season for Formula One. It feels like a lot of laps have been completed around this Bahrain circuit. It feels like they know it very, very well. You had Jarno Opmeer on the desk here earlier on, and you were saying, hey, back-to-back, triple.
He didn't even know it was a hat trick.
He didn't even know it was a hat trick, right? Because that's how unusual it was to race around Shanghai. That's not the case with Bahrain. They know it like the back of their hands. And then is that going to create a gap between the rookies and the more experienced in the way that we haven't seen for the first 2 rounds? Time will tell on that one, but Bahrain is a circuit where I think experience is going to be very useful.
Yeah, we will have a look at that track in just a moment and get Lucas Blakely to take us round because he's a previous winner here. Thomas Ronha holds the title from last year. That was our race back in Jönköping, Matt. And there was an extra bit of an added bonus because he won $5,000 towards the end, which was added incentive. And we know there is prize money.
What on earth went on?
It was crazy. You were missed.
What did you spin the wheel
Yeah, like
with a couple of laps to go?
Yeah, it was
amazing.
I'll tell you what, we can do it right now. Let's have a look at Lucas Blakely talking us through this Bahrain circuit.
Bahrain really all comes down to, setting up the braking on the entries. I always try and focus on getting the braking absolutely spot on. Into turn 1, you've got, one of the heavier braking zones on the track. I feel like on this game, it's actually better to brake maybe slightly too late rather than slightly too early, as if you get to the inside apex a bit too early, you've got, quite a big curb, you don't want to be hitting that. So, keeping that minimum speed up through turn 1, trying to keep it flat over turn 2, making the distance as short as possible, basically making it as straight as you can. And then DRS open as soon as you get out turn 3 into turn 4. High energy corner, you're really attacking, demanding a lot of the car in the entry there, applying a lot of lock towards the middle, and then sort of the circuit tries to fall away from you a little bit and the exit, so traction becomes a bit more demanding. Then into the thick of sector 2, you've got a really, really fast chicane, you've got to be really aggressive over the curbs. You think you're holding about 6th gear through there, so it's a lot of momentum. Very easy to get caught in the exit curb. Then very, very challenging combined sort of entry trail braking into slow speed corners with turn 8, the right-hander. And then probably the hardest corner on the track, turn 10, really demanding on the trail braking, carrying a lot of momentum. Number 1 priority through there is to get a good exit while trying not to sacrifice the entry. Turn 12, quite a quick corner. It's over very quickly, you just got to commit really hard. and then heading in towards the final sector, penultimate corner, so tempting to overcommit on the entry. I think that's maybe a corner where you probably want to not overcommit. You've got to spot your braking point absolutely perfect, and once you've turned in, that's really it. You've got to really commit into it. You can't really take multiple stabs at it, and then using all the track in the exit, DRS up onto the line, and that would be how I manage a lap with Bahrain.
Well, from Lucas Blakely, giving us a tour around there. We're with the team manager from McLaren, Joel Chapman. Joel, we've been talking off air a little bit about how much of a struggle it's been so far for McLaren this season. Lucas yet to get any points on the board, but Alfie, however, has managed to.
Yeah, it's been a mixed bag for us, I'd say. If we can bring things together a little bit in qualifying, if we can just put qualifying together a little bit more cleanly, I'm sure it will make our racing life a little bit easier. I think if you look across the two races, both cars have moved forward really well through both great strategy from our engineers and fantastic driving from the drivers. Quali has been our struggle so far. Both previous tracks just didn't quite get things together across both cars. But confident that once we show what we know we can show in qualifying, the results will start to come to us, and we'll get some more points on the board, because we're sort of sitting middle of the table so far, and mixed bag.
Confidence, of course, in Lucas Blakely. You guys have worked together for a couple of years now, obviously world champion as well in 2022. Alfie, though, however, has come over from Haas. You've signed him up, grabbed him after his successful debut season, of course. How has he been, and how receptive is he of the feedback you give?
Yeah, Alfie's been fantastic. He had a fantastic rookie season at Haas last year. He's joined the team and joined up with the experience of Lucas, who's, of course, a championship winner. The two have worked together fantastically well. I think Alfie's really benefited from the experience of Lucas, and Lucas has benefited from the raw pace and talent of Alfie, and they've worked fantastically well in practice. And we're confident that once we nail and we show the pace that we know we have in qualifying, then the results and the talent that we have will really start to show.
And you've got one of the best headaches on the grid, which is three incredibly strong drivers, Wilson Hughes as well. Are we going to see him out as well? Are we going to see a bit of a rotation throughout the season?
We're still looking into how things might play out. I think at the minute, Lucas and Alfie, they're so on it, and they're top drivers. Wilson, he practices every single day with both of them. He's up to pace and up to speed with both those drivers, and is pushing them. So they have to stay on it, because Wilson is just right there alongside them. So we'll see how things play out. But right now, I think Lucas and Alfie are showing fantastic pace. And they're a really tough match to beat.
All eyes on qualifying. Let's see how you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire.
Great to hear the words of Joel Chapman there, the team manager for McLaren Shadow, and also the GOAT Wilson Hughes getting a mention as well there. But that is not an easy role, being a team manager, because you can set the best intentions, talk to the drivers, but essentially it's up to those two drivers to be out there and to deliver.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do from a management point of view before you have to hand it over and leave the drivers to do their stuff. I mean, they've got an incredibly talented driver in Butcher moving into his second season after a great rookie campaign. They've got a proven world champion, but as he says, they've got to get the basics right, and that means two cars into Q3 this season. That's proving pretty difficult to achieve for any team.
Yeah, a mixed bag was his words there, Joel, and making racing life easier. That's what Joel said. Matt, you've got to make racing life easier. For some of the guys like Jarno, he makes it look easy when not the qualifying you want in the first race in Melbourne, and then managed to deliver. But McLaren haven't been able to do that just yet.
They haven't, no, and it's a shame to see, because on paper those two were probably one of the drivers we're looking out for, with Blakely, of course, being champion and Alfie Butcher being this new star on the scene. It just is, it's exactly what Joel says, it's qualifying. You're giving yourself far too much to do in this session that we're about to see, that when you get to the race, like Lucas started 19th in the last race. It's basically no hope unless you have a changeable condition race. So put it all into your own hands. Get into Q3. Lucas Blakely can, so can Alfie Butcher. But that is testament to this season as well. It's not just like McLaren are the only ones struggling. Ferrari won the team's championship last year, and look how they're doing. It's not just McLaren.
Okay, right then, let's get to it then. Quali is just about to start of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and I know you want to talk about Slipstream as well. Alex Jakes, Matt Gallagher, take it away.
Thank you very much, Tom Deacon, as we take you to Bahrain International Circuit, and we're used to this place. After a return for a couple of venues that we haven't seen every single year, this one we are very much used to. 5.4 kilometers, 3.3 miles, and 15 turns for the drivers to get used to. But Matt, a change in the rule classification from last qualifying to this.
So you may be aware, if you watched the last qualifying session, things got a little bit different to maybe what we are used to seeing, and that was the fact that some drivers, some teams were taking advantage of the slipstream. And in fact, slipstreaming was deemed more advantageous than running in clean air and not having dirty air. So there's been a rule imposed, put in place, where they cannot slipstream each other. There has to be a 3-second buffer between the cars when they start their flying lap. Will that open up some interpretations of rulings? We will have to find out and wait and see, and keep a very close eye on the stewards' penalties, appeals, decisions, everything else that's been going on. Speaking of appeals, Pookie had a 3-second time penalty taken away after it was given to him in the previous race, which is important for Mercedes, of course, being the team's championship P1 at this current stage. So interesting to see how this one unfolds, but we will not see the antics like we saw last time, and the likes of Freddie Rasmussen, for example, falling foul by picking the wrong driver to slipstream.
Yeah, slightly strange stuff earlier on, immediately addressed before we go qualifying once again.
Which I like, that's good, right?
Yeah,
they've heard the feedback, they've changed it.
Change for Williams. Ruben Pedrino is in the car, and he is racing with us for the first time this year. Williams going for this approach of distributing talent between their 3 drivers, and that is a switch for this round of the championship, round 3 of sim racing in 2025 for Formula 1. And he's riding the curbs as he makes his way out of turn 13. Crucial corner to get right. You carry all the momentum through. Also, we're saying on Pookie's penalty as well, that is a key moment, because it's good enough for 4 points. The penalty that he had would have dropped him out of the points. He keeps his 8th place as a result of that penalty being rescinded, and he is officially 8th in the classification after that appeal was successful. All penalties can be appealed by the teams, and Mercedes getting successful with that, with their rookie driver who scored points in both of his rounds so far. We're on board with Otis Lawrence, who I feel we've been talking about him a lot. I love that line heading in. Oh my word, hanging on to it out there earlier on. Of course, just out on the intermediate tyre, doing a systems check. This part of Q1 as he gets himself up and running, showing the car's nice and loose. He won't want that when he goes to the soft rubber later on.
Still going pretty quick, has to be said, on the intermediate tyres, and probably quicker than Tom Deacon in the simulator on dries. So, yeah, just want to throw that in there.
Oh,
He didn't ask me at the end of the
My word.
Didn't ask me at the quali show if what I was up to at the end of the show. So that's fine. That's one back at Tom Deacon. And
what did you get up to?
No, we're not even going to know, because no one cares.
Okay, fine. I'm glad you haven't taken it badly.
It's Q1 nonsense right now with the intermediate tyres on Otis Lawrence's car. But you were saying about how Otis Lawrence has been spoken about a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like he's put a lot of points on the board. Has he had that breakthrough drive yet? Not quite. It's not like he's...
A lot of ingredients for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like, he's
really
shown
good.
the potential. He's 16 years old, so perhaps I'm being a little bit harsh that he hasn't had a breakthrough moment yet, but he's in the fray. He's in Q3. He's putting himself in the position that other experienced drivers aren't. And, yeah, that's all you can really ask for.
16 is crazy. He's done so well. He was disappointed, shuffled back. There's been a lot of moves of brinkmanship in the last couple of laps of both races that we've had so far. Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it goes against you, and he found himself losing the opportunity for a maiden podium last round a couple of hours ago. Everyone's had to reset. So there was a little bit of a chat about the format and the way that we do this. We don't do 2 qualifying sessions back to back. We do qualifying race, qualifying race. That is a driver request. They prefer it this way round. Everyone's done their install laps. There's not much going on at the moment, so we're still waffling for you podcast style before we get our first runs in Q1. And it is worth joining us from Q1 because of the amount of shocks that we've seen and big names falling at the first hurdle. For the likes of McLaren and Ferrari. You just can't have this repeated again and again and again, because then it goes from being a flashpoint to a narrative. Then it's something that you're consciously thinking about in a way that you wouldn't be, and it goes from instinct to thought.
Exactly. And we're coming up to, well, this is the halfway point of event 1 in the sense that we've still got a couple of races to go. Ferrari and McLaren have to get a stranglehold of this. If they want a chance of winning either championship, they have to start now. We're speaking to Marcel Kiefer, our wonderful analyst on this show. He already thinks it's done and dusted. No chance for them to win the championship, just purely because of how far back they are. Lucas, huge yawn. One of the biggest yawns we've seen this season. But that is just...
I thought we were going to have a yawn graphic there.
Maybe we'll get one made for yawn time. But yes... Marcel thinks it might well be over already. I'm not so sure. I think Ferrari in particular last year, they put in some incredible 1-2 moments towards the end of last year, which helped them secure the team's championship. If they can start to show that form again, then they can catch the rest of the field, especially with how unpredictable this season is. It's not like we're seeing teams lock out 1-2s left, right and centre. We've got star performers, but not usually, apart from Mercedes in Australia, having 2 right at the front.
Yeah. Absolutely right. And we've got Ismail Fassi, Jarno and Otmir.
Brendan going to do anything?
Is he?
Oh, not
is
this
he?
time. He loves the camera.
We're whispering so he doesn't get a hint that we're talking about him. No, nothing that time. We've got Fassi and Otmir at the front of the championship. They're locked together on 38 points. One name you'd expect, one name you wouldn't expect. Speaks to what you're saying about the unpredictability so far. Interesting to see who's gaining confidence as this event progresses. Interesting to see who hasn't been able to dial in. We've mentioned the Ferrari pair, the new driver in the field. It's one thing to jump in midway through the day. Interesting tactic for Williams to switch drivers.
For sure, with Caraton as well, a very experienced driver. They must have given Pedreno an assignment. Right, you are going to do Bahrain, and we want you to be in tip-top shape to jump into the car and deliver for us, especially when you've got the likes of Fassi there, performing at a level that maybe even Williams didn't expect. So they'll be hoping that their strategy of changing drivers is going to work, because they're right in the mix for the team's championship right now. They came into the season never having a win, and now they're finding themselves right at the top. So the strategy will be, of course, analysed at the end of this event. But we're looking at Fassi, of course, the other side of the garage, looking at the camera up and down. And that's what we love to see, is that confidence within Williams that perhaps we haven't seen in years gone by.
Yeah, Ruben Pedreno, the driver change for this event. There's the man who was on pole position last time out against expectations. And the Racing Bulls team trying to repeat things. They just want to get both cars into Q3. That's always going to be their aim. I love it. Everyone's looking around going, are you going to go? Are you going to go? Everyone's chilled out for the moment. That's our most recent race winner in Jarno Otmir, who is waiting to get back racing once again inside. And you can just see the Butcher there, Alfie Butcher looking on.
I like the adventurous shots of trying to find
I like
faces.
it. I like it. Our camera ops are working overtime
the accelerator pedal.
Loving the crew that we've got on site. We appreciate each and every one, allowing you to bring us this. We're checking in with the engineers as well, because there's nothing going on track until now. We've got a couple of outlaps going on, and we're going to see some runs on the Red Bull soft tyre. Good job too, because running out of things to say.
Oh. Speak for yourself, Alan. I had plenty more Tom Deacon slander in my locker.
Oh, that never ends. That well will never run dry.
Here we go then. Barry Brumand in the Ferrari. He's going to really want to not just bounce back, but separate his emotions from the first couple of races that we've had, because Barry does very much drive with not just his brain, but his heart as well. You feel the emotion and how much he cares about this. Has he forgotten about the last race in China? Has he been able to really reset himself? A good Q1 lap will be a very nice start to that.
Yeah, certainly will. He was our third place finisher last year, and on that road 3 times a race winner. He was 22 points, less than a race victory away from the championship. The current conditions are clear. We've been led astray by the graphic earlier today, but at the moment the conditions are clear. We're racing with the conditions set to a setting sun as everyone's out there generating temperature and trying to find the quickest route around a circuit which we're all used to. This is traditionally the season opener, but we've moved it back in the calendar to reflect what's happened to the real event happening later in the year. Australian Grand Prix kicking things off for Formula One this year. You're going to see the yellow flag a lot in this session. That's just down to cars going slightly slowly off the racing line. And we go again. We reset and we see who can find the time good enough to make the top 15, where once that was a no-brainer. I love that line. I love that line into the early turns of the racetrack and head up to turn 4. I remember Lewis Hamilton did that once in testing. I described it as the sim racing or esports line. And it's just, he was testing out whether you could get the entirety of the car as wide as possible, trying to make that entry as wide as possible, carry in the speed. It always seems to be that all the drivers, no matter what championship they're competing in, copying someone's homework. Same thing again here. You do that in real life, you'll bring up all the drain covers.
Exactly. It's slightly more optimal conditions for these F1 sim racing drivers out there. But they're just, it is awesome to see in the sense of they do not leave a millimetre to spare.
How it should be as well. Wonderful precision. And this is the circuit that really displays it like few others, running 2 wheels off the road for the majority of the time. Barry Bromond out there attacking and getting it right to the brink of track limits. Just what we want to see with the DRS open. And the Ferraris go out nice and quickly. Bromond ahead of Longue, your top 2 as we begin things in Q1.
And we can just about hear from him now.
Guys, I'm going to wish you best of luck. You guys were very fast in practice, so just do clean laps. And yeah, pace is really good. Consistent lap is all we need.
Yeah, and show them who.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going different. Good luck.
Freddie Rasmussen ahead of Barry Bromond, who you were hearing a really nice message, geeing them up, giving them the encouragement, picking up your drivers when it's not gone to plan. It's a long season, it could yet turn round. It's looking ultra competitive. When it's ultra competitive, you get larger point swings in the championship. You're not just looking at what we might have seen in previous years where it's only going to be a 7 or 8 point swing at every single race. It's different this year. It feels different this year. One of the reasons why Otis Lawrence, every time he goes out with no fuel in the car, absolutely rapid.
He's there again, isn't he, Otis Lawrence?
3 different racetracks, Matt.
Yeah.
3 very different racetracks. He's looking competitive at all of them.
Very fast indeed. Of course, Q1 is another matter compared to Q3, but right now, showing the pace once again. And after these first laps, of course, they only do 1 further lap after this. You're taking a look at the likes of Danny Beresnay down in 15th, Jarno Opmeer, our last time's race winner, down in 18th now after that first lap. So already there's pressure. Jarno's already forgotten about the fact he won in China, and now he's thinking, I've got 1 lap to make it out of Q1. This is it.
It's almost like we've got a mandatory champion who must go out in Q1. Extraordinary stuff. Duncan Hoffland yet to put a time on the board. Sounds like a malfunctioning lawnmower at the moment.
I don't think he's pushing.
No, I don't. I don't think.
Oh, that's the car on a
which
lap.
It certainly is. That's happened again. That happened.
Oh no, he's not on a lap. He's 6.6 seconds down, but just going a lot quicker back to the pits.
Getting back
else.
through, pacing around. Yeah, offset with the run plan in China. You don't want to be coming up to cars in that way. Just heading back, everyone peeling off. Back to the pit lane, scrubbing off huge speed before you come back, hit your marks. We've got a warning if you speed in the pit lane. And it's Otis Lawrence on run number 1, who's ahead of Freddie Rasmussen. And it's Bromond, Fashy ahead of Manley. Ronha in contention for victory last time out. Harry to settle for a podium. And Lucas Blakely, Nicholas Lonke, Butcher, and then Pookie rounding out the top 10.
Fashy's retired from this session, so he is happy with that lap that he's set in 4th place for the 26.195, and he thinks that's enough. He's not going to be surpassed by the bottom 5 at the end of this Q1 session. Of course, Track Evolution will kick in. Brumand has retired as well from this session. Retiring meaning, I'm not going to take part in Q1 anymore. I'll see you in Q2. That's the message that they're sending. Very interesting to have that much confidence straight away, not even discuss it too much, just the outlap. That's all they needed in terms of discussions. They know roughly the benchmark and what kind of time they need to hit in order to get through to Q2 safely. And of course, they want to save a set of tyres, which is exactly what they're attempting to do. Brumand, of course, in third place, Fassi in fourth. They are both separated by 0.02 of a second. They both had the same thought as well.
So, putting their feet up for a bit, but there's plenty to sort out further down the order. And as we find ourselves looking at the drivers who will be checking over their shoulder, we'll have Longuet, Butcher, Johnny Tormala, Josh Edu, Ismail Fassi finding himself down there. That's a little bit of a shock given the season so far. And then Pookie, Lee, Blakely, Pedrino, who is making his first start in the championship, and currently at the back of the field, the driver who was at the front of the field for the last race, and looking to move up now. Oh, sorry, my timing page is way out of kilter, and so I shall redo that order again. Josh Edu in 11th, then Pedrino in 12th. Our pole sitter from the last race, Ozilda finds himself in 13th, and it's Gal, Beresnay, Lee, Tormala, Otmir down there in 18th, then Crozen and Hofland, the drivers who are concerned with progression into the next part of qualifying.
1 minute 33 to go here in Q1. It arrives so quickly, doesn't it, after our little podcast at the start of this Q1 session. It's already towards the end, and the top 6 have decided, nope, we're not going to do any more laps in this session. So Blakely, the first driver in 7th, who thinks they are not safe. Let's have a look at Azildarim. Very close to the pit wall once again. I would imagine that's due to the track surface, similar to China, and how Marcel pointed out that going towards the pit wall was the sort of flattest and nicest ride for the cars. Azildarim's going to want to bounce back after a disappointing race, it has to be said, from pole. Just fell away, sadly. And, of course, no slipstream tactics if you're just joining us. They've changed the slipstreaming rules. You cannot slipstream or stay within 3 seconds of the car ahead on track. And so this is why we're seeing lots of clean laps out there. It's a good decision and a good change to have made coming into the Bahrain Grand Prix. So now we're seeing the true raw speed, no elements of luck in the sense of who you pick to slipstream.
It's looking neat and tidy, but in a season of fine margins, when the time really comes down to hundredths at most of the while, your entry, your corner speed, absolutely vital. Having no snaps, no corrections, picking up the throttle as early as possible. This is always such an important corner for that throttle pickup, because it's going to cost you momentum if you are slightly hesitant on the throttle. And now, with the clock running out, the checkered flag will wave. Ozildarim, who took his first pole position in the championship at the last round, can he get himself into the next part of qualifying? He goes to the top of the pile. It looked a good lap, and it is a good lap.
That'll be concerning for the rest of the drivers. Of course, Ozildarim, put in a very solid lap, but in China that was due to other factors as well. But he's gone fastest of all. What about Gal? Goes 9th. That'll be very crucial for the likes of Ronha and Manley. Maybe slightly less sweating. Let's see now Alfie Butcher over the line. He goes fastest as well. Yep. So I reckon we're getting a little bit of squeaky bum time, for want of a better phrase, Alex, for the drivers that have decided to retire. However, only 5 need to not go slower.
Longuet's gone fastest. Watch the bottom 5, currently occupied by Beresnay, by Lee, by Crozen, Tormala, Otmir and Hofland. That's our bottom 5 at the moment. Moving up, Josh Edu, who climbed 11 places. Superb run in the last race. Over the line we go. Brendan Lee right on the bubble. He's the vulnerable driver. Jarno Otmir, can he find a way through? Yes is the answer. And Otmir digs himself out of trouble and gets himself through into the next part of qualifying as we go over the line and eliminated at the last.
Pookie's the big one, I think, for Mercedes, out in 16th place.
Oh, that's a big moment. Pookie, Hofland, Lee going at the end there, Crozen and Johnny Tormala, the drivers to fall at the first hurdle. It changed right at the end. The big question was, could Otmir deliver under pressure? And yes was the answer. Pookie, Hofland, Lee, Crozen and Tormala, the bottom 5, and exiting at the end of Q1. This world champion exiting in Q1 continues. This time it's Brendan Lee.
Talk about confidence as well. We're just speaking about how those drivers stayed in the pits, tried to save a set of tyres, Ron Har being one of them. He cleared Pookie by half a tenth. That was all it was between Ron Har in 12th and Pookie in 16th.
Oh, my word.
So they left it very tight to get that extra set of tyres in the bank. It worked out for them, but could so easily have not.
Yeah, that is... we talk about fine margins all the time, but that's ludicrous. That's incredibly tight. That could have been a round ruiner for him. Instead, it's just paid off. But I wonder if we'll see such blasé tactics continued in the future. Either way, close call, but got away with it. And this is a championship that comes down to hundredths. And we've seen that once again. We told you that before the last runs. And encouraging stuff for Nicolas Longuet to go fastest at the end of that Q1 session.
And the trend continues. A champion at Q1, of course, with Brendan Lee. But probably one of the most unsurprising Q1s, I would suppose, in terms of the list of drivers that are there. It's more... we don't have the likes of Freddie Rasmussen or Jarno Opmeer, who was, of course, under pressure in that first run in Q1. So still a lot of big guns when we go into Q2 and Q3, and very excited to see that one.
Looking down at Aston Martin. And they find themselves with one car still in competition and Duncan Hoffland out at the moment. Let's send it to Claire Cottingham.
Yeah, come to a disappointment, I'm sure, for yourself. Welcome back to the championship. Nice to see you, of course. Are you enjoying your time here at the moment in 2025?
Yeah, it's been pretty good, especially when we scored points with both cars in the previous race. It was very nice.
That's exactly what you want coming into the championship, isn't it? Disappointment, obviously, right now in qualifying. You said before we went live, though, you were expecting it.
Yeah, I was struggling the whole time in practice on this track, so I wasn't expecting too much. Of course, it's not very nice to be last, but I think I can still work something from there.
It doesn't seem like your normal race pace, though, so there's some sort of positive to take from that heading into the race.
Yeah, like my race pace is very strong on this track, so I'm hoping there's some more chaos like there's been in the previous races and I could climb back.
I was going to say that's what we need right now, a bit more chaos in F1 sim racing for 2025. What are you expecting then to come out of this race?
I hope I can still score points. Maybe not very good points, but maybe P9, P10. I think that should be the goal.
That should be the call. How are you feeling though in yourself? Are you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling very good. It's very nice to be back here and finally get going.
Exactly, that's what we like. Thank you so much. Go well in the race.
Thank you.
Johnny Tormala in conversation with Claire Cottingham after finding himself out in Q1. We'll reset in a few moments and we'll get back out there for Q2. The drivers ready to compete. And I think you're right, Matt. I think that's the least surprising Q1 session that we've seen so far. Just the way, isn't it? You see it with all the great drivers out there. There's always going to be a track that doesn't suit your style. Johnny Tormala saying that he would never want to be last, but given encouragement by what he's seen in the first two rounds, where you can't count anyone out, all the strategies are viable. We've seen contact, we've seen clashes, we've seen great overtakes, and we've seen all 20 drivers being key participants.
And what I love the most is that Johnny Tormala, from 20th on the grid in that interview, thinks, yeah, I can still score points.
Yeah, I like
which
that.
is just the state of this game and this championship in the sense that overtaking is possible, especially with the ERS usage, like Jarno Opmeer said after China, and the fact that there is more strategy to it. You can choose when to deploy, when to go on the attack, when to defend with your energy. And that opens up a world of possibilities, even for drivers that are knocked out in Q1. So I love the positivity from Johnny Tormala. Will he score points later on this evening? We'll have to wait and see.
Nicely set up. As we go out there for an exploratory run in Q2, it was a session that really came to the boil late on. I feel that everyone's experience around this circuit means that this is the most relaxed I've felt the studio so far, the arena so far. Maybe it's because it's our second one of the day and everyone is into the groove, into the way of running, knows what they can expect. It was a good lap under pressure from Ozelda Rem. He delivered when he needed to in the last session.
He certainly did. And this lap will most likely be a set of those Q1 tyres moved on into Q2. We've got every single driver out there on an outlap. Of course, there was a selection of drivers that saved a set from Q1, and they will reap the rewards going into Q2 and hopefully also Q3 for their sake. As we see Gal going into turn 1, no surprise. We see the aggressive turn-in on the steering wheel. A method, a technique in this particular game to try and get the rotation as we head into this next right-hander, and a very tricky section here. The curbs love to spit you out, Alex. This is just the way the curbs ride with the... it's just obviously beautifully done by Gal, but by most people that watch that, it's very difficult. So you get through there, you survive, and then you go, okay, right, now one of the trickiest braking points in the Formula 1 game calendar, the downhill double left-hander. Try and trail brake into there if you dare. It's so difficult, but it's so rewarding at the same time. Once you get through there and you're happy with your lap, the rest of it's pretty plain sailing.
And then you are climbing up again through the sweeper at 12 to 13 we go. Let's listen in. Waiting, 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 then standing on the throttle, climbing the crest of the hill, and now we're heading for home. Turn 15 doesn't really exist, so this is the last real corner on the racetrack. Make the entry as wide as possible. Maybe not quite connecting with the apex in the way that Thomas Gal would have wanted to. And he comes across the line and goes fastest of anyone so far as he puts a time on the board, immediately beaten by Fassi, by Manley, and by Ronha.
Those drivers, the top 4, I believe, all saved a set of soft tyres from Q1. Gal missing the apex there at the final corner. Does Freddie Rasmussen have such troubles? Of course not. It's Freddie Rasmussen. What kind of lap time? Nope, straight into the pits for Freddie Rasmussen. His, I wouldn't say troubles continue, because it's only the first lap in Q2. It'll be the final lap that really matters. But some of the drivers not even bothering to finish their lap and just were using it as a sighter, or perhaps made a mistake. But either way, Otmir in 9th, all the way down to Blakely in 15th, yet to set a lap time. We might have a little bit of a lull now before we see those final flurry of laps where we try to keep you updated on 15 drivers coming over the line within 45 seconds of each other. But
Always enjoy that.
But remember, they have to stay at least 3 seconds away from each other. Otherwise, they will be investigated.
Which might make things slightly easier.
Fingers crossed.
In a few moments' time. As we see Ronha, who played things really nicely in the last race. Strong tactics and had the oldest tyres in the way that he fought through all the way to the end, claiming that first podium of the season after the disappointment of round 1, where it all fell away towards the end of the race when he had been in contention for a podium there as well. He is the driver to beat as it stands, trading his way back to the pit lane. Lovely flow to this racetrack with that really tricky turn 10 that you were talking about, the lock-up generator that we get all the way through. Griselda Rim pushing on and pushing on to the pit lane. Driver who's currently ahead of Ruben Pedreno, who is our driver swap in the Williams. Yet to see the hand of Otmir, Bromond, Peresne, Rasmussen, Longuet, Butcher, or his teammate Lucas Blakely, who's made it through into Q2.
I'm really excited for the race later this evening, Alex. Bahrain, whether it's real life or in sim racing, I feel like it just always delivers. It's just one of those tracks. You just get excited for it, don't you? You really do. And I think these drivers are, as you say, there's a calm nature, calm atmosphere at the moment. We'll wait till drivers don't do well or whatever, because of course their emotions do run high there. But right now, yeah, everyone's just settling in. I think maybe Q1 and the drivers that exited there, as we say, wasn't particularly surprising. We're starting to see those more veteran drivers really start to settle in and get those laps in that we expect from them. And of course, right now we have Ron Hart fastest in this Q2 session. But we await the final laps here in Q2. I mean, we have 8 minutes and 46 seconds remaining as we have the outlaps of Otmir all the way down to Blakely happening now. So out of sync with the rest of the runners that we saw go out a little bit earlier.
Yeah, different run plan, but with 8 minutes to go, they're out there, they're generating space. 3 seconds required between the cars when you cross the line to end the tactic of slipstreaming, the game engine and the physics of the game changing year to year to year. Slightly less dirty air for the drivers to deal with. Nicolas Longuet is in the generation stage for tyre and temp and energy. Just ticking off the corners before he can go and attack this racetrack. A driver with prowess in terms of his number of pole positions. 3 wins in the championship, 8 pole positions in his time behind the wheel, part of a Ferrari Constructors' Championship win. It's been a tough start to the season for them, looking to put that right immediately, and we'll see whether he can put that right. Meanwhile, we go further forward to the novel line being taken. Avoid the bumps until you get to the braking zone of turn number 1. Massive degree turning back, and then clamber all over the curb before taking the widest possible line to optimize your entry into turn 4.
Felt a tiny bit deep from Barry there into turn 1. Let's see how much time he may have lost in that first sector, but he's pushing on now. It's a 27.851 in the first sector, which is the fastest of all on those fresh set of tyres. And he's, of course, trying to make it through to Q3 alongside Nicolas Longuet. Ferrari need both of their drivers to make it through to the final part of qualifying, to really start to gain some of that momentum that they've just failed to get so far this season. Barry pushing once again very nicely through that double left-hander, and he now opens the DRS all the way down this straight before chucking the car in. DRS closes, of course, for the stability of the car. Then up the hill we go, ride the curb slightly, and then fly this car straight in there. Not a huge amount of sort of rear sliding like we've seen in the previous 2 races. And there's 1 corner to go, does Barry Brumant. How does he negotiate it? Hits the apex beautifully, gets on the power, uses absolutely every centimetre of the track on the left-hand side. Over the line he goes, and it's the fastest lap of the session, a 1 minute 26.045. Freddie Rasmussen, 13 thousandths slower in second.
Really intrigued to see how Nicolas Longuet stacks up against his teammates' effort. Nicolas Longuet into 3rd position. I think Perman did leave a little bit of time on the table, as you said, Matt, into turn number 2 after going deep into turn 1. Jarno Opmeer's gone into 6th position. And he drops down. It's now Bromand, then Rasmussen, Blakely, Butcher, Beresnay. Ronha goes to the front of the field with the fastest time in the session so far, as we wait to see the efforts of those pushing on, and we wait to see who's going to find themselves improving on this crucial run. Fassi has gone to the front of the field. Fassi, then Ronha, Bromand, Rasmussen, Blakely ahead of his teammate Butcher. Manley goes to 3rd position in the Racing Bull. Otis Lawrence to 5th place in the Aston Martin, delivering nicely when he needed to. Longuet's effort that was good enough earlier on drops him down now to 12th position, along with Opmeer as well. Danny Beresnay on the podium in both events so far, down in 11th. Thomas Gao, Ruben Pedrino getting up to speed in the championship, in the drop zone with them.
And welcome Azildarim. No slipstream to be seen. Goes fastest in Q2. That's exactly what we love to see, and I'm sure the Racing Bulls team are enjoying that one as well. What a great lap from him. 1,000th of a second faster than Fassi, of course, and 12 thousandths faster than Ronha. That's how close it is right at the top of this F1 sim racing session in Q2. But that will be a good feeling, I'd imagine, for you, Lash. Of course, had a difficult Chinese Grand Prix after putting it on pole position, but if he can stick it on pole again, it's of course an extra point, because there's a point given for pole position. But he'll of course want to not do the same that he did in China, and perhaps actually deliver a podium at the very least if he was to get on pole position. But it's very close indeed, all the way down the field. Nicolas Longuet has to be the driver I'm looking at right now, and Jarno Opmeer. Those two, 12th and 13th, with 1 run to go here in Q2. And yeah, the likes of Azildarim, they can just put their feet up at this point, happy with that lap. Let's see how many of those drivers, if any, decide that that is enough for this session.
Intriguing stuff. Danny Beresnay has the fastest first sector of anyone so far. Jarno Opmeer has the fastest final sector of anyone so far. And yet they find themselves in a little bit of trouble at this stage of proceedings. It just shows you that knitting the entire lap together is so important. And they're finding themselves with improvements, but it gives them the encouragement that the lap time is there when you're setting purple sectors at some part of the circuit.
And I also love that as well, because there's a difference in setups, clearly, because you've got the, like, as you say, Danny Beresnay fastest in the first sector, Azildarim fastest in the middle, 2.5 tenths quicker than Danny Beresnay in that middle part of the lap. And then you've got Jarno Opmeer, of course, the fastest in that last sector, but that's the thing, right? You lose somewhere in the lap, and Yildirim has made the most of that middle sector, perhaps running a little bit more downforce than the rest of the drivers around him, and he's picked up a huge amount of time and gone fastest.
Yeah, 36.7 for Yildirim, 36.7 in that middle sector. Only other driver who's managed to do that so far in the session, Thomas Ronhaar. Everyone else slower in that part of the circuit. So it speaks to that setup bias that Matt just described for you being the right way to go at this stage. Of course, it's high-speed stuff for the other parts of the circuit. It's a wonderful flow to this Bahrain International Circuit, and Freddie Rasmussen in 7th place, coming off the back of a couple of really tough races if you consider that he never finished lower than 9th position last year on his way to his maiden title after finishing runner-up for 4 seasons in a row. So he's out there, 2 minutes to go. This is the difference between fighting later on for a top 5 or the win. You can recover. We've seen that in the last 2 rounds. But there's something about this place and the knowledge that teams and drivers have about this place that's made it feel a tad more predictable than anything that we've seen so far in this sim racing championship. This is not a day to drop the ball and go out in Q2 around Bahrain International.
So this is fascinating. You've got quite a close Q2, it has to be said, and every single driver bar Yildirim has gone out. So Yildirim's retired from the session, thinks that that is enough for me to make it through to Q3, save a set of tyres. But Fassi, only 1,000th of a second slower, has decided, nope, I'm going to go out there and set a lap just to make sure. And that might well be, Williams saying, look, it's not worth the risk of having 2 bites of the cherry in Q3. Let's just make sure if we can improve and get through to Q3 and completely secure it, let's do that. We're in the hunt for the drivers and the team's championship at this stage. And that seems like a conservative approach from Williams with Fassi in P2.
That is a very, very fine margin to not run again for. We'll see whether they've got it right at Racing Bull. Let's go to another team now. This is Haas and Thomas Gal in conversation.
I mean, someone in point 7.
I mean, like a P7 is 0.5. So I need to at least improve 1.5, at least.
Do you think Yildirim's got this right?
I'll tell you in around 2 minutes' time, if that's okay.
It's going to be really, really interesting to see whether
they've rolled the dice.
Whether this one works out for them or not. Either way, fastest at the moment. Let's see whether our pole sitter from the last round makes it through into Q3 for this one. Danny Beresne, currently in the drop zone, needs an improvement. And if you can see how close it is between going through, going fastest and going out, it really is down to every single braking point, every single moment that you apply lock. The more lock you apply, the more speed that you are scrubbing off. Try to minimize the turn through there. Look quick for Danny Beresne. Needs to be quick for Danny Beresne because he's chasing an improvement, and he's got one. Up to 4th position. Alfie Butcher, what can he do? 4th position for him now. And then it's Nicolas Longuet up next. A driver who's shown good speed around this circuit in the past. 1 real corner to go for the Ferrari driver. They're spread out a lot more than they have been. Barry Bromant has gone quickest of anyone so far. That's one Ferrari. Where does the second one go? Second one isn't finding the pace at this stage. Only 10th on the bubble. Otmir goes to 8th. Next one is Lucas Blakely trying to get through. He goes to 8th position. Longuet is out. Otis Lawrence is out as well. That's a bit of a surprise given the open 2 rounds of the year. Pedrino's gone. Josh Edo needs a lap. Josh Edo finds a time good enough for 8th. And Thomas Gal gets himself up to 6th position with the last effort across the line. And that is a session completed. Once again, super tight. Jarno Otmir out. Freddie Rasmussen out. Nicolas Longuet out. Again, the big names are falling in this confounding championship.
This is absolutely baffling, to be honest with you, Alex. What a Q2 session that was. Of course, Nicolas Longuet pretty upset with himself once again with that one. Sadly, not making it through. But it's just scalps on scalps on scalps, isn't it? Just every single session. Otis Lawrence, of course, he was running very strongly and has been the entire season in qualifying in particular. You can see that, feeling very sorry for himself at the moment. But I can't get enough of F1 sim racing in 2025 and the qualifying sessions and just everything else. Danny Beresnay, smile on his face. He's happy.
Yeah, incredibly tight stuff there.
Or is he happy? Is Beresnay happy? Yeah, he made it through. I think.
Our timing.
Sometimes
we'll look at the graphic.
Yeah, we'll just wait and see what's actually.
We'll
shown.
see what the graphic says,
sometimes
shall
the
we?
timing's
Because
like, we're going to keep
I'm not getting on with my iPad. I'll be honest. And I've already read you a wrong order in this session so far, so I don't want to do it again, especially when we got to the end of the session. Well, really dramatic stuff there. And it all came down, once again, to very, very tight margins. We've got different timing pages telling us different things.
I think Danny Beresnay is happy.
Yeah,
I think I was right.
To cue you in on what we're saying at this stage. Anyway, we'll bring you the classification in a few moments, and then we'll remark on what we've seen. So there you go. Eliminated Jarno Opmeer, our most recent race winner, commanding win as well. Very, very authoritative drive earlier on. Freddie Rasmussen making it both Red Bulls. Nicolas Longuet, and we know he's got performance around this circuit in the past. Otis Lawrence, who's been flying over one lap, and Ruben Pedrino out in the second part of qualifying. What is going to happen next?
You know, you had that question about whether it was the right thing for Ulash to do it. Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Thank you for that. That's why we pay you the big bucks.
I was going to answer.
No, I appreciate that.
Just thought I'd just make you very clear. So let's go and hear from Pedrino with Claire Cottingham.
It's always difficult to come and talk to drivers at this point because they're never particularly happy, and you can tell why, because they're out at the point where they don't want to be out. And unfortunately for you, it's not exactly where you want to be. Is it a tricky circuit? It's catching a lot of drivers out.
Well, obviously, as you can see, a lot of shocks in quali with Freddie, Jarno, Nico out. So, yeah, it's a tricky circuit also for me, jumping in only for this race and not driving in yesterday or this morning has been difficult, but a small mistake in this level and you are out. So, yeah, quite tricky to complete the lap really good here.
That's a really important point. You haven't been out racing this morning. We've had a midday driver change. Does it feel difficult when you haven't been able to get onto the rig and have any sort of practice?
Well, yeah, obviously I'm not in the rhythm of driving because I've not driven since I was at home before flying here, but it's not an excuse, obviously. We are the best drivers out there, so yeah, we'll need to get better for next one, and obviously disappointed because I knew base is there, but obviously points are in the race, so we will come back.
I don't feel like you're making excuses. I feel like it's a really good point that it's hard to get into the rhythm. Everyone's been sitting here in this environment, getting all the atmosphere, and you guys have kind of been outside in the cold rooms, so it is a good point.
Yeah, exactly, but, you know, we are the best, as I said, so we need to perform even in those situations, and obviously a bit of disappointment.
You are the best in the business. I like the way you said it twice, just in case I didn't know. Thank you so much. Good luck for the race.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we go again then to the final part of qualifying. All drivers remaining in the rigs, whether they'll be participating or not, but it is going to be an intriguing session, an interesting session as well. Again, big names have fallen. Our most recent race winner, they're gone. Our most recent champion, they're gone as well. We have 10 drivers ready to hit the circuit. The time comes down and the need to go out nice and early goes up as we find ourselves into the top 10 shootout to set the grid for the third round of the year. I'm Alex Jakes, he's Matt Gallagher. Let's get on with it then for Q3. Looking forward to this.
Shall we? I think we should. Yeah, big congratulations to McLaren Shadow. Both drivers into Q3, which I didn't think I'd be congratulating them at the start of the season for that feat, but that's a good thing to do because it's the only team that's managed 2 drivers into this final Q3 session. What can Blakely and Butcher do? And of course, we're looking at him right now, Ismail Fassi, again in Q3 when his championship rival at this moment, Jarno Opmeer, out in Q2, starting 11th again. We saw that in Australia for him. He finished P4 in that one. Can he pull off another strategic masterclass to save his qualifying? But Fassi's putting himself in the mix every single race we've seen so far this season.
Yeah, when we're going to get, if these shocks continue, it's going to turn into a game of can you score good points? And we had Jarno on this very desk, didn't we, saying that you need about 15 points.
Yep.
If you keep ticking over with that, then you've got every chance. Danny Berezne through once again.
And he's done 15 points twice, Danny, so he's just doing 15 every single race.
If he carries on with that, he's got an opportunity to trouble everyone else, because it's up and down for everyone else so far. Yes, it's early, but they're all on the same equipment. They're on the same rig. They're out there at the moment. And we have had plenty of hours now of competition. Install laps have been completed. We have 9 minutes on the clock, if you are wondering. You're looking at Danny Berezne, who we were talking about, back-to-back podiums. He wasn't sure, such was the blur of the Chinese Grand Prix that we had earlier, about whether he was the driver to have done it. He is the only driver to have had back-to-back podiums so far in the first 2 races of the year, a championship led by Jarno Opmeer and Ismail Fassi, who are tied at the front on 38 points. It's the same point system for Formula One, apart from the fact that the fastest lap point continues. Goodbye to that bollard.
See you later, Bollard.
We never knew you. And that's the end of that one. And also, point for pole position, which is very, very important as things go through. And given how hard it is to even get to Q3 these days, that's a very well-deserved point for pole position on the evidence so far.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Tamas Gal, of course, rookie in the Haas, into Q3 once again. I imagine Haas will go for a more conservative strategy for this evening's race after the learnings of China.
Soft on again. Every time.
Until it works. It will work eventually.
Well, I suppose we've heard a lot of drivers referring to the data, right? And if the data is telling you that you're not going to win in a fair fight, you've got to try something different. They tried something different. It didn't quite work out, but it made them more competitive in the mix than we would have seen. If you're going to finish in a certain position and you do anyway, why not roll?
They were in Q3, though. They were in Q3. They had a chance of scoring points if they just sort of followed the strategy in some way, the preferential one, that is. So my argument would be that Haas could have scored some decent points, but they tripped over themselves in qualifying, giving themselves slipstream and getting penalties there. Let's hope for Gal it's a much cleaner qualifying session. Of course, if you're just joining us, Q3's begun. You cannot slipstream another car after the learnings of China, so that's why they are all in some wonderful clean air, and we're going to see who is the fastest driver right here, right now, at this Bahrain International Circuit.
I have to admit, for the first 2 rounds, I was going, why does qualifying feel way more frantic than the last time I was behind this microphone? And then the slipstreaming joy unfolded. They were around this desk earlier on, having their driver's briefing. The clarification in rule was made in between rounds, and now we're getting to see who is quick out there, who can deliver. Look, rule no one out, expect no performance. It is all completed on the push laps when it matters. Danny Berezne has stepped back into contention in 2025 so far, and he is taking his Mercedes down to pesky turn number 10, which is always so easy to get it wrong, slew wide, and lose a huge amount of time.
But he's not done that. Yeah, that was perfect through that double left-hander downhill. Very difficult to spot your braking point there. Berezne continuing his great run of form in qualifying. Opmeer was on this desk saying he was the fastest driver in 2018, 2019, 2020. Just wasn't able to deliver under the lights like, well, the likes of Jarno Opmeer has. But Berezne not feeling that pressure as much, it seems, this year. It's great that he's got a handle of the physics of this game. And just got on top of the troubles that he had, where he just sort of wasn't really in the mix for a couple of seasons. But he's right back there as Josh Edo sets a 1 minute 26.3. Nothing to write home about at this point in Q3. And Berezne, I believe, actually has invalidated his lap time. Barry Broman, though.
Barry Broman goes to the front of the field. Sorry to interrupt, Matt. I believe it was turn 13 that Danny Berezne went wide. We had a long shot of it. I think it was Berezne who went beyond the white lines at that point.
Thought you'd use the iPad then. I was like,
I know, I'm not getting on with the iPad. I'm not enjoying the iPad at the moment. Barry Bromand finds himself on a 1:25.843. Zilderem won that pace. Absolutely superb. Ron Hart ahead of all of them with these first runs in Q3 that matter so much. Alfie Butcher is another driver who is going to push on now, looking for a time that takes him further forward. Ron Hart, then Broman, then Zilderem, then Fassi. The top 4 at the moment. Lucas Blakely finds himself in 5th. Butcher is in 6th, and it's Gao. And Edu, at least it was, Tom Manley, has gone ahead of his teammate. He's gone P3.
Some very decent laps there from Ron Hart, Brumand, and Manley again. Manley just showing there's a huge amount of raw speed for Tom Manley this year. Just needs to convert that into some big points in the races. He's showing that qualifying is a specialty of his. Just needs to be able to manage that race. All 100% of it. We've seen 95%, incredible from Manley. He was ahead of Otmir in Australia, but wasn't able to bring those points home. So yeah, with one final run in this Q3 session, it's going to be fascinating to see how this all shakes out. Of course, some drivers running on fresh tyres, some not, depending on if they've been able to save a set through this qualifying session. And Ronha at the front at the moment, and he's going to, as much as, you know, second place is great in China, it would have hurt a little bit, especially against Otmir. The rivalry there is just one that I can't think of a better rivalry in F1 sim racing at this current stage. So it's going to have hurt him a little bit. He's going to want to be on the top step of the podium, and this is the kind of message that he wants to be sending.
Yeah, great first run. Gives him the foundation to improve for run number 2. Barry Bromond will be so pleased to find himself in contention. And Tom Manley there. We're looking at Danny Beresnay, who had his time deleted for going all 4 wheels beyond the white line. He then has an opportunity to go again, but he does so with no time on the board. So if he gets it wrong again, looking at a P10 start, but he'll know where he lost the time. I believe it was turn 13, the one in the background there that you saw. Tom Manley trailing back to the pits as well. On for P3 at the moment. It's been a great day for one lap pace when it comes to the Racing Bulls so far. They'll be delighted if they're locking out the second row. At the moment, that's what we've got.
Having a look at some sector times, because I do enjoy looking at the data, and Manley is the fastest first and third sector, but Ronha a couple of tenths clear in that middle, and that's where he's really gained that 65 thousandths overall advantage between Ronha and Manley. So different setups once again, it seems, between those two drivers, but yeah, Ronha a master in that middle sector.
Yeah, he's able to extract something in the middle part of the lap that just the others cannot live with, even Zeldarim, who is able to get close, but not close enough. He's got a similar setup in that he is very competitive in the middle sector of the circuit, but not able to match what Ronha has done so far. So the final pause before we'll send the cars out once again. They'll have to maintain that 3-second gap, and then they'll be looking to perform their best lap so far of the day around this circuit and going out there early. So the track will be its best. Last car over the line, that's always the case, unless, of course, it rains like it did in China. No chance of that around the Bahrain circuit. And Danny Beresnay going first, looking for an opportunity to lay down the lap time and daring everyone else to come back. He's aiming for a step forward, driver who's been around 8th position starting for both of the races so far.
Well, here we go then, 2 minutes to go in this Q3 session, and we've got, well, almost all of the drivers, 3 to go to come out on their outlaps, prepare the tyres. They'll know exactly what they need to do, the amount of weaves, the amount of brake pressure they'll need to do to get every single bit of data in the green to be ready to go round this circuit one final time before we go racing a little bit later on this evening. The Racing Bulls are doing a phenomenal job in qualifying. Of course, Azildarim on pole earlier on, Tom Manley and Azildarim 3rd and 4th at the moment. But it's all going to change. It is going to all change in these final laps. You've got Beresnay down in 10th. I don't expect him to stay there at all. And I can't wait to see these drivers go to the absolute limit one final time.
Looking forward to it. Just a correction on what I said about Danny Beresnay. He did start the last race in 5th place, lost a couple of positions off the line, so early stages he was in that 8th position. He doesn't want to start around the 8th position. He'll be looking for a back-to-back top 5. And can he find a way to fight back into that top 5? We're on board with him, seemingly back to great form. A strategy in Melbourne, run to spoil the races of others, one that he believed gave him the best chance of winning the last race. Can he give himself a platform to attack from later on? He's pushing on, looking for a time, at the very least, that counts this time.
Yep, fastest first sector of anybody for Beresnay there. He was half a tenth quicker than what Ronha managed on his fastest lap. We'll keep an eye on the middle sector when he goes through it. DRS wide open for Berezne, but it was a very, very quick first sector for the Mercedes driver. He'll climb up the hill and watch to the top right, and we'll see exactly where he is sitting on this lap time. It's a 1 minute 4.611. I can't do mental maths that quickly, but it's looking like a very good lap.
Danny Berezne has got through the corner that cost him last time. 1 to go. Picks up the throttle nice and early, keeps all 4 wheels within the white lines, up through the gears, flat to the floor, over the line, good enough for second. That's a big lap under pressure. Now, what can the rest of the field do with the checkered flag waving? We're checking in with the Ferrari of Broman. Can he find himself back to the front row? That's where he was until the last few seconds. Can he take it back from Danny Berezne? Can he take pole? No, he stays in third. Next up, a former champion called Lucas Blakely, who goes to the front of the field with the clock at 0. Josh Edo goes to third position. Alfie Butcher, only 8th for him. Does anyone else have an answer? Ozeldarim goes to 7th place. Can anyone spring a late surprise? The joint championship leader is round the final corner. Fashy coming across the line. Can he displace the McLaren man at the front? Oh, he can! He can at the last! By 0.03 of a second. Thomas Gell goes to 7th, and now we're going over the line, and are we going to see an improvement? No, we're not. And Ronhar's in third. Fashy's delivered, and it's Tom Manley out there. Tom Manley, the last car circulating, and that's it.
That is it. Tom Manley not going to improve. Fassi on pole. Again, look at him. He's loving life.
Got the moves off the racetrack, got the moves on the racetrack. A second pole of the season, and it's going to be Fashy and Lucas Blakely at the front of the field. Then it'll be Thomas Ronhar and Josh Edu as we get another late surprise in F1 Sim Racing 2025.
What a quali session. Again, every single time I feel like we're saying it. Fassi, fastest of all, delivering right at the death. I felt like Ronhar. I just felt like there was something there on that final lap that he was just going to steal it away. But he didn't manage it. He's still third on the grid. Didn't improve in that final run, which is surprising for Thomas Ronhar. You expect to see that marginal improvement on that final lap. But Fassi, once again, you can feel the atmosphere again in the studio because they're all there chatting about their quali performances. I'm sure we'll get to speak to him very shortly, but a result again for Williams.
Yeah, having never won before in the F1 Sim Racing Championship, suddenly they're looking contenders everywhere we go.
And Blakely as well, up in second.
So important for him.
Huge.
That he dialed himself back in to contention. He needs a big result later on. Second place, front row start, gives him every opportunity of it. If you consider that our most recent race winner is in 11th, our most recent champion is in 12th, it's turning into one of those topsy-turvy seasons.
Ismail Fassi, absolutely mobbed by the Williams team, ran through this studio and just congratulated him. And he even had the smiles coming into quali for the cameras, for everybody at home. He just seems, as you say, guys, absolutely dialed in. And I don't know about you, watching that Q3, just watching both Red Bull drivers in Freddie Rasmussen and Jarno just sit there, nothing they could do. It really is turning up so many surprises. Now you've had some time to just decompress, reflect on
15 seconds, yeah.
All of those 15 seconds, gentlemen.
All you get today. It's all action day too, isn't it?
I have spoken to the Apple genius. He will be coming in to talk iPads in a bit with the people on the desk here, Alex. And the well will never run dry with the Tom Deacon banter.
No.
Gentlemen, a highlight for you in terms of what you've just witnessed there in quali around Bahrain.
It's going to be the lap at the end to take pole position because you felt that it was wide open between multiple drivers there, but that was ludicrously close. That's almost more what we're used to. But then a name that we have to remind everyone didn't score points in the second half of last season, has roared back, taken maiden poles. That's now 2 poles for the season, now the 3. Taking his maiden win as well when that wasn't a foregone conclusion. Looking every ounce the contender right now.
I know it's far too early, so do forgive me this, but when we came into this round 3, joint leaders, Jarno and Ismail, well, that's gone out the window. You get a point for finishing on pole.
Yeah.
He is now your driver standing leader, and he looks like he feels no pressure at all at the moment, Matt.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's all well and good him winning a race, but then the pressure comes. Then you all of a sudden you're leading the championship. He delivers really well in the race earlier on, finished 4th, and now to then bring it back again with another pole position. Fastly, I think he said in maybe the post-race interview from the first round, I didn't really expect to be here. I didn't expect to be fighting at the front, to be championship leader. But he belongs there, clearly, because he's not feeling the pressure. You have to deliver to your utmost potential. And he's done that in every single session so far.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hear from him right now. He's with Claire Cottingham.
Well, Ishmael, we meet again. Congratulations, pole position. Were you as surprised this time as you were yesterday?
Absolutely, yes. First attempt, I forgot to turn on the DRS, so I lost like a tenth and a half on the main straight. And last attempt, like Alex Limorte, my engineer, said, just go for it. And that's what I did, and I just got pole again.
You did literally just get pole again. Where is this coming from? I mean, again, like we spoke yesterday and we had a little sit-down chat. You were really impressive last year, but double pole back-to-back is incredibly impressive coming into this championship.
I mean, I'm amazed, like you know,
To be clear, I'm not amazed. I think you're an incredible driver. Like, I'm just saying, it's an amazing feat.
Yeah, it is. I just can't believe it. Two poles out of 3 qualifyings. You know, what can I say? I'm just happy. And the confidence has been there since the game was released. And as you can see, there you go.
You've got a great team around you as well. They've been cheering you on. They were rallying around you a moment ago. That confidence comes from the team as well, doesn't it?
Surely, yes. They are Spanish. Also, the English ones, you know, they've been supporting me since a long time ago. And I'm just so happy that I can celebrate this with them, that they are here to see it. And
We've seen chaos so far within the races that we've had in 2025. What are we expecting from Bahrain? One more race to go tomorrow in Jeddah, which is famously quite chaotic in general. But Bahrain, are we going to see a win?
Hopefully, yes. But it will be as chaotic as the other two. The grid is very close. Looking forward to secure another podium, another race win. Just want to score as many points as possible and keep the championship lead.
Currently joint champion of a championship lead at the moment with Jarno Opmeer, of course, 38 points. This is an important time to really make your mark at the beginning of the championship, especially with other teams that maybe would be ahead in other situations, maybe struggling.
Right now I'm the championship leader by 1 point.
Of course you are, because of pole position, of course. I like that. I like it when people correct me. It's great.
Focusing on the championship or drivers' championship. Like I said before, I just want to score as many points as possible, and also for the team, Ruben is starting P15, I think. So if we can score as many points as possible, then it will be good. As we are P2, we are not that far away from Merck, who are first by 12 points, I think. So we will see.
How good would it feel to end this round 1 leading the championship going into the next couple of races we have in a few weeks' time?
I don't know. Firstly, we have to finish, no? So if we head to event 2 being the championship leader, then I guess I will tell you when we are there.
Doesn't like a hypothetical question. I'll remember that. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell you what, his confidence is running high. Correcting Claire Cottingham. I don't think I've ever seen it been done before.
I mean, fair enough.
Fair enough.
He's the championship leader. He wants to be known as that.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know what it is about the Spanish driver. Just so smooth, just so calm. I'd like to hear some of the team comms from racing around Bahrain International Circuit in Quali. We can hear that now, I believe.
Grita ya, Moro. Vamos. Yes.
I tell you what, when you're feeling it, you are feeling it in that rig. And Ishmael is definitely one to watch. Surprising moments. Marcel Kiefer has just joined us on the desk. That is not a surprising moment. The 5 seasons in the game, former F1 sim racing driver. What did you make of it? Biggest surprise for you in that quali?
Red Bull. Red Bull again out. This time with both drivers. Jarno consistent in P11.
at least the consistency is there. So, yeah. But also another shock, Nicolas Longway. It's one of his best tracks.
Yeah.
I was expecting Lucas to be good because this is also historically, I think, his favorite. I think he's always up there. He had so many poles already in Bahrain. I think he had it in 22. I think 21 as well. I'm not sure about 23, but he's so strong on this racetrack. Lawrence also for the first time not making it to Q3 and quite emotional. But I mean, he has lots to learn. So yeah, I think just in general a clean quali. There were not any moments where you're like, oh my god, the driver made a big error. It's just it was super tight and a couple of errors driving wise, but it's not like you could see it right away. It was just way too tight to. Some drivers made it through, some made it not, and in the end, Fassi was on pole.
For Ferrari, all the hopes sort of ride at the moment on Barry being in P6, going into the race later on at 21:15 Central Eastern Time, just to remind everybody to make note of that. But anything can happen. It's about that race pace. You heard from Ruben Pedreno at one point saying, look, there's no points apart from finishing on pole, so we'll leave it for the race to get those points. But biggest shock for you maybe in quali, Alex?
I'd have to agree with both Red Bulls going out in that session. It's unusual to see multiple champions in the same team. It's unusual for multiple champions in the same team not to make it to Q3. That's a really strange one. It's turning into a strange season, though.
But it's become the norm.
Yeah.
three qualies in. That is the norm, Matt.
Yeah.
Any other surprises for you?
Josh Edu up in 4th place. I think that was a really good performance from him. Not surprising in the sense that I don't think he's got the pace, but just to be up there in this kind of season where you have to deliver to the absolute utmost potential. So to see Edu up in 4th, I'm interested to see how we can do later this evening.
Marcel, can we focus on the track a little bit before we go racing in a bit?
Of course. So, I mean, we have 15 turns. It's a very, very difficult racetrack, but also that makes a good difference for the drivers. We're starting a long straight where you could also see the drivers going more closer to the start-finish line and the pit lane, actually, similar to China. So they're heading down here, down into turn 1. This is one of the highest speed and actually the highest speed section of the racetrack. Hard braking. It's actually good to overtake on the outside because that turns into the inside for turn 2. Then you're heading up the hill towards the end of sector 1. One more corner to go. Also very tricky because the corner is kind of falling away from you and there's a little dip on the exit. In real life, it's quite easy to lose the rear end there, depending on the wind. Then you're heading into sector 2. We have this small S section here, as you can see, going through 5, 6, and 7. In turn 8, if you're close enough through 5, 6, and 7, you can actually do something. But yeah, it's not the most common place to overtake, as the run towards that corner is just very short. You need to have better tires or just an Otis Lawrence setup with a lot of wing, and then you can maybe launch a move on someone. Then heading into the most difficult braking zone, turn 9 and turn 10, where you can lock up the front left quite easily, and another DRS zone, which is not a usual overtaking opportunity, but like I said, if you can manage to stay close, maybe you can launch something into turn 11, which is a high-speed corner in 5th gear. Very early, full power, then still flat through turn 12 into sector 3, braking on the curb on the left, which is also a place where you usually lock up. Then you head towards the outside of the curb, and you can see all of the drivers. They're using all the tracks. It looks like they're going off the track, but they're always in touch with the white line. Now, one more braking zone to go into turn 14, where they really have to make sure they brake as late as possible, because the corner, again, it's turning into another small right-hander where you're also using all of the track, and then you're heading back towards the pit lane wall to minimize the bottoming out effect from the cars.
I feel like you were playing one of those games where if you went out of the line, it was that.
I was panicked. It reminded me of like the days of having a magnifying glass just for a little bit. Thank you very much for giving us that insight into where to attack on the circuit. And as we've seen for the previous 2 races, Alex and Matt, I mean, it doesn't really matter where you start on the grid because anything can happen. I mean, Joni Tormula has got it all to do, just like Josh Edo did in the last race, starting in P20. So it's possible for any of these drivers to gain some vital, important points for their team.
Yeah, there's a big opportunity. It's worth saying that our winner, though, we have had a converted pole and someone win from P3 on the grid. So as wild as it has been, it's very handy to still be at the very front of the field and inside the top 5, I think probably a prerequisite. The amazing thing is that we've seen drivers spring themselves into mid-race contention, and then that's changed the complexion of the entire race. So I'm expecting to see that once again. We're looking at what the Red Bulls can do. Can they make early progress? But then Danny Perezne keeps rolling up. He's posted in the top 5 once again for the second quali session in a row. If he can keep ticking over with 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way through, given the peaks and troughs for so many of the heavy hitters out there, he's going to go deep into this championship as a contender. And I don't think many would have expected that at the start of the year. Maybe not even him.
No, maybe not even him, because he's got a cheeky smile on his face, for sure, in between races. Matt and Marcel, I want to ask you this. He starts in P12. What is, and you've driven with him, you've been part of a team with Freddie Rasmussen. What is going on right now, and how will he be adapting to this fortune that isn't what we're used to? I mean, Alex even said, as you commentated, he's never finished outside of P9 last season. So yeah. What's going on for Freddie, and how is he going to adapt?
I mean, honestly, Freddie usually has very bad event ones. It's quite a common theme. Last year he didn't, so that's why he had a better run for the championship title. But this year it seems to be the same thing as always. And when I was teammates with him, he's just always saying, unlucky, season is over, like after race 1 already. So I don't really read much into it. I think Freddie will still have a really great season. He's going to bounce back. He's a very talented driver, so I'm not really concerned about what's going to happen there. But
speaking about event nerves, is there anything to say about the fact that Otmir, probably one of the, if not the biggest heavy hitter here, joining the team, is there anything there, do you think, with Freddie, with Otmir alongside him?
I think for storyline and for us to cause a little bit of drama, it would be nice, but Freddie really doesn't care who's next to him.
He's still looking. I thought that was going to be the answer.
Honestly, he does not care. It could literally be Max Verstappen beating his teammate. He does not care. Like, he's there to win. He wants to be P1, and that's everything.
That sounds like a couple of fist bumps from Marcel. We're just waiting and just, cool, we'll do it afterwards. Let's look at that pole position lap from Ismail Fassi. Can you talk us through what you noticed by watching this, Marcel?
Yes. So, like we already have seen, the drivers are getting very close to the pit lane wall just because the floor would scratch the surface and they would bottom out and they break after the 100-meter board. A lot of lock-in, but he manages nicely to get close to the apex. Cut a lot of turn 2 up the hill. Now you can use the inside curve, but you don't have to. He's positioning himself already further to the left, crossing over to maximize track distance again. Flicking the wheel in again. I think Fassi mastered that. I think that's why he's so fast. Like, he's very good at flicking the wheel in, and he's attacking the curbs in the S section beautifully. Now probably again, flick. Yes, there it is. 3rd gear. Super early on the power. You don't actually see him like have any sort of issue with the traction, and again, he's flicking it in. It just looks beautiful. It looks like Fassi's on rails, honestly. I think everyone knew this guy had potential, but this handling and this year's game seems like it's his, so I actually rate him as one of the drivers. Oh, there it is, the first time when you can actually see him break traction. That was not perfect. Then up the hill, still 3/10 up. What can he do into sector 3? Again, flicking it in a little bit, not too aggressive. Great exit, gains another half a tenth, and now just 1 corner to go. Is he putting it into 8th gear or is he keeping 7th? He's staying in 7th instead to maximize the engine braking. Another flick in 4th gear early on the power, and I mean, that is a perfect lap. You can't do it much better than that.
You cannot indeed, and he is starting on pole, picking up another point. I'm intrigued to find out how Lucas Blakely is feeling. First time on the front row in 2025. He is with Claire.
Yeah, first time in 2025 you're at the front row. That's exciting to hear, isn't it? And I think something that you really, really needed right now.
Yeah, I think, it's naturally when you have, this opening to the season that we've had, it's been, it's so easy to get lost in like the negatives, and really it can so easily spiral like the other way. But I knew coming into Bahrain, I was like, no matter how I feel, I need to like just reset and make the best of this opportunity. It's one of my favourite tracks and probably one of my best tracks on the whole calendar. So yeah, I knew this was an opportunity, and I knew that I just had to just give it everything and see where we'd end up, and it was good enough for the front row. So yeah, very happy to bounce back from a tougher one earlier today, but it's not how you, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So just got to keep going and keep trying.
Yeah, I came over to you and I said, congratulations. You were like, well, I'll take that. And I thought, well, it's P2. I mean, how do you then take on this challenge of where you start? Because we've seen a lot of movement within races. However, obviously Ismail Fassi showed that you can win from pole position or however you want to move forward. How are you going to really take on a race like Bahrain? Because it can be a little bit chaotic.
I think, to be honest, at the moment, like any other race, we just go into, thinking with the same process, the same ideas, deciding the strategy, making sure you stay in the race. It's so easy to get knocked out or literally look at last year. I had my front wing taken off, which, so easily things can change in a blink of an eye. So you've got to be, remain sharp, remain focused, and just go from there and see what happens. That's why it's so difficult. It's because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to have good race pace because qualifying is one thing, but we'll see. I think it's going to be exciting. It's one of my favourite races. So the goal is to just try and compete for the win as best as possible and bring home good points for the team with both cars. It
was a tricky season for you last year, and how did you approach your off season? Was it a real step away from the sim for a long time? Did you go back into the sim how did you approach the off season?
I'm going to be honest, it doesn't feel like I've had one. I just feel everything sort of, the last maybe like 18 months just feel like they've blended all together. It's been a pretty much a big grind. So it's just been, since last season, to be honest, just been, straight back to it, playing the game, trying to, find out what works, what doesn't work. And it's, that's what makes it really difficult. Every year you're starting from scratch. There's not much you can really carry over, and I'd say that's especially true this year. It's so different from anything we've probably experienced in the last 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. So it's been definitely a big learning hurdle for probably all of us. But I just approach this the same as I always do. I just go out there, race my heart out, and see what happens, and do myself and do the team. As proud as possible. So
new teammate alongside you. Obviously, we've got Alfie Butcher's come across from Haas. How's that relationship been? He's such a nice guy. So I'm guessing you kind of have conversations about what you can extract from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alfie's been such a great member of the team, even though he's only been with us for a short period of time. But for someone that's 17, which for me just scares me, he's so level-headed, very, very. He's got years ahead of him, years ahead of himself when it comes to maturity. Okay. He's easy to work with, really straightforward. And he's been great. Yeah, it's just been good. I don't really have much more to.
We love you, Alfie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's just good, and he's really quick, and he pushes me and he pushes the team, and it's great for everyone. So he's been great to have on board, and I'm sure we'll continue working really well together going into the rest of the season.
And are you quite surprised how this championship is shaping out over the last couple of days? We've seen some of the big hitters maybe struggle a little bit more than other times, and some new winners, which is great. And it's just been an interesting start to the 2025 season.
100%. I think that if you look at the 3 qualifyings we've had so far, I've had a Q2, then a Q1, and then a Q3. So it's about I'm getting the full range. So, and I think, but that's true for so many of us. Like, it's been such a yo-yo, and I think that's one thing with this game is it's so hard to find a rhythm, be consistent. It's 1 minute you can drive a lap that you think's the exact same, but it can vary 2/10. So it's really, or in extreme cases it can. So it's just really, you've got to be really, really focused. I mean, that Bahrain quali, I just tried to focus as hard as I could, which was just, took a lot of mental energy for sure, but ultimately it was worth it for the end result. But definitely a lot of shaking up of the order for the opening couple of rounds. Whether that'll translate into a sort of a form pattern, I guess we'll find out in the coming races and then coming events. But ultimately, I think to be honest, I don't even know most of the result orders half the time. I just try and focus on what we're doing as a team. Try and always think about the next thing. Think about moving forward and keeping as positive as we can, no matter how. And I think today's a great testament to that. I think as well. Earlier today for me, it didn't look so good in Q1, and then Alfie was so unlucky in China not to make Q3 with all the things that went on. And I think that to get both cars into Q3 finally for the first time this season is just a huge testament to all the work that we've been putting in. And I think that, yeah, we obviously would have liked this to have happened a little bit earlier, but we're just going to keep chipping away and hopefully have more of this in the coming rounds.
Well, front row start. Good luck. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
There you go, Lucas Blakely with a lot to say, and I like that, of the quali around the Bahrain International Circuit. Should we have a look at the starting grid when we come back? It's 2100 hours for all the build-up.
10 minutes after that answer from Lucas.
We'll go as quickly as we can. Yoli Toma, we heard from him. He'll be having for a P9 or P10. He starts the 20th. Then Joris Krozen for Haas in 19th. Brendan Lee, this will be his 72nd race in F1 Sim Racing. He's followed up with his debut for Duncan Hoffman in 17th. Moving on upwards, what a start for Mercedes. Candice Van Pookie get up into the points, and Ruben Pedreno's debut race coming up for his new team, Williams. Otis Lawrence, been a fantastic start for him. Not where he wants to begin, but it's how you finish the race that's the most important thing. Followed up in 13th by Nicholas Longuet. In 12th position, he's the reigning champion. It will be his 60th race in sim racing, followed up by his teammate Jarno Opmeer in 11th. 3,000ths of a second off Lucas Blakely, missing out on Q3. Alfie Butcher in 10th, and Ulas, what a start for him in his Racing Bulls career. This will be his 14th race. In 8th place, Tom Manley looking for his second ever podium. Thomas Gao, 7th for Haas. Can they get their first points in the Constructors title this year? We'll have to just wait and see. 6th place for Barry, and obviously 5th place start for Danny Beresnay. 2 podiums in a row. Will it be the third one? Josh Eder, brilliant start for him so far. Thomas Ronhart will be looking for his 6th win. Lucas Blakely, who we heard from pretty much his memoirs there, which were incredible to see.
Great answers though, aren't they? Every time.
Every time. And Ismail Fassi looking, well, that's his second pole. He is looking for his second win. Done and dusted. Starting grid done. Alex Jakes, we're going to keep it nice and snappy.
We'll see about that.
Okay.
Weekly mode engaged. Let's go.
Flick the switch on this one. Who is going to be taking the win later on when we come back at 2100 hours?
I think it's going to be Lucas Blakely. I think he's going to get the job done. He loves Bahrain, and I think he's going to put in a drive that takes him to the top step.
Marcel Kiefer, what about yourself?
Vamos, Fassi.
Okay, yeah. Beautiful stuff. We'll get Matt Gallagher's prediction when we come back later on, just to wind him up a little bit more. Thank you very much for joining us. That is quali done. We'll be back at 2100 hours Central Eastern Time for the Bahrain International Circuit. We'll see you then. Matt, I do love you.
I don't.